Hello, everybody. This is Sunil Naphray here, and it's a great pleasure to run another podcast with my very good colleague and friend, thought leader and philosopher, Mustafa Sasmaz. Hello, Mustafa. How are you today, my friend?
Hello, Sunil. Thank you. Not bad. Thanks.
I think, Mustafa, you have. I was joking with Mustafa earlier in our pre-podcast talk. Is that he has performed heroics, and him and his family have performed heroics to move house. He's been very busy with his business as well, and I'm so glad I can see the old library, but in a different room. And the library is back, and the books. You know how much I love books, and as you can see, Mustafa has an amazing book collection. Mine is, as you can see, as it is. It's still in development, but Mustafa has got like the equivalent of Britannica Encyclopedia in his office. And he's an avid reader. He's a philosopher. He does lots of reading. That's why every time he comes on the podcast, he provides such really important and insightful feedback, which I greatly value. So thank you, Mustafa, for joining us again. I know you are extremely busy, but thank you very much. What we're going to do in today's podcast is we're going to take quite a practical look into particular aspects of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, okay? And basically, we're going to be talking about the 14 presuppositions of NLP. Before we go into that, I just wanted to mention, how can we use NLP in everyday life for personal development? Because when people hear of the jargon NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, they might think it sounds a bit scientific, it's not really for them. But trust me, neuro-linguistic programming is everywhere. We actually do it all the time without even thinking about it. And it's about having an awareness of how we think, how we verbalize what we think, how it then comes out in our behavior and actions, and what are the consequences of those. This can really help us to solve everyday problems, whether it's a relationship problem, it's a work problem, it's a personal difficulty you've got. And also NLP can be extremely helpful in say your business or your work. There are so many solutions that can be determined from how we communicate and how we understand communication. So there's a lot in there. So we've done a few podcasts already on NLP through lifegenius, some in this podcast series and others in my other podcast series with other collaborators. But it is a really important topic that keeps coming up time and time again. So we're going to share, well, first of all, before I go into the 14 main presuppositions of NLP, I just want to quickly go through how it can be extremely useful in your everyday life. NLP can help you to develop yourself. If you are aware of how you think, how you react to how you think, how does it act out verbally or physically, either individually, privately, or collectively, you will learn a lot about yourself, okay? Just by observing, just by taking a step back and observing. Even if you have to keep a journal to monitor, I thought like this today, and this is what happened. And again, developing yourself is something that we all need to do. We all need to keep a check on. I mean, before the podcast started, I was having a very open chat with my friend and colleague Mustafa with how many things that I've learned the last 9 months since becoming online, since having an online presence, and how NLP has helped me a lot in kind of helping me to get to this stage in terms of hosting podcasts online, something that I never did 9 months ago. Okay, so it's about how you think and how you act and how you behave and what you perceive from the world, which will help you to develop yourself. Okay. So yeah, basically there are 10 suggestions that might help. It's particularly helpful to help you to manage your personal and professional relationships, because if you know how to manage yourself, if you know who you are, what your values are, what your purpose is, And if your purpose is in vibration with all of your relationships, whether it's personal, whether it's business or work, then that is, you're fast tracking yourself to a life of joy, bliss, and happiness, because you are aligned. Your vibration is aligned. And again, the way you think and the way you talk, the way you behave is critical in how you see yourself and how that shows up in relationships. So when I think back in my own relationships, why things did not work out, or relationships that were not successful, then I have to take ownership of me, what I did, how I was thinking, what emotional state was I in. And NLP helps me now to be able to think about this really carefully before I show up to myself and I show up to other people in terms of my relationships, okay? Again, it's extremely beneficial for negotiation and persuasion, okay? There are NLP techniques like pacing and leading. Now, I've talked about those in a different podcast series, okay, with another guest. But again, you have pacing and leading and rapport building. These are essential NLP techniques. And lots of salespeople have to learn essential NLP techniques to try to persuade, negotiate, and hopefully to get that sale. Very helpful in meeting those sales targets. Again, largely through how you influence, how you persuade people to think the way you think. And it's all about things like mirroring and matching. Mirroring and matching are also NLP techniques, and how you are maybe copying people's language, their nonverbal communication, to get that rapport, to get online with them, to get on the same wavelength. Also, NLP can really help you to create powerful presentations, because especially if you are speaking from your brain, speaking from your heart and soul and spirit, rather than speaking from paper, okay? Because the best presentations are those where you are speaking from within, naturally and organically, not those which have been pre-rehearsed and those which have got probably cliched phrases in there because you've learned them, or they're overly used, okay? So you can create very natural, very powerful presentations by making sure that your language is aligned to your thinking and your intelligences, so then it comes out in a really important way. I want to make a distinction here between deep structure and surface structure. This comes from the NLP meta model of distortion, generalization, and deletion. That really, if your deep structure, which is your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, if they can connect properly with your surface structure, which is your voice, your speech, your language, your tonality, your pitch, if you can align your deep structure with your surface structure, then you're going to produce a really powerful, a really impactful presentation that will capture people, okay? Because people know that you are speaking from within, not from some external source, like looking at slides or looking at PowerPoints or rehearsing notes, okay? So I think you know what I'm talking about there, that those particular excellent speakers. For example, I love watching TED Talks, and the best speakers are those who speak from within, and and they got everybody, in the palm of their hands, okay? And you can do that by using NLP techniques, okay? Also, you can manage your time and precious resources as well, because NLP helps you to think clearly and think straight. And also, NLP helps you to structure, okay? One of the most important things about using your time appropriately is to structure your time, okay? So to compartmentalize things. Now, if you compartmentalize, now I'm a big fan of using Google Calendar, okay? I'll put a green block for admin time. Then I'll put a blue block for maybe a Zoom call with someone. I'll then put an orange one to do maybe, I don't know, some family stuff. So I'll color code things, family, business, work, whatever it might be, or financial work I need to do, all color coded. And then I know my brain will then be able to connect with the color, okay, with the visual representation. And it will say, right now it's family time. Now it's money time. Now it's YouTube time. Now it's Instagram time. then my brain will then get ready and be zoned in to that nature of work. So things are not overloading, like, oh God, I got this, that, I got family stuff, work stuff, business stuff. My day is not like that because everything's color coded. From an NLP point of view, I work with the visual, which is part of the VACOG, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory, and the olfactory representational systems. I'm a very visual person. If I see it, I believe it, and then I do it. So NLP helps me with the color coding in my calendar to help manage my time. And then my thoughts, which is where the actions will happen. The thoughts are aligned to that zone. I know what my blue zone is. I know what my orange zone is. Okay. So that's really powerful as well. And it can be really powerful for coaching. I use NLP a lot for coaching, not just coaching clients, life coaching clients or business clients, but also coaching my children. I've got 2 children, 23 and 18. They're still young and they still need help and support and nurturing. And I want them to be their greatest ever versions. And that's one of my things as a parent. That's one of my core principal values, is to be a really good parent to my 2 children. So they can then enrich their own lives and other lives that they will affect in the future or even now. And so for me, coaching them on NLP, coaching them on about clarity of thought and managing your emotions, and also being aware of your actions and the consequences of those and that flow, and also coaching my children on deep structure analysis and surface structure work as well. Really important for that alignment. You know, things that I wasn't taught when I was their age, they're all getting it now, and it's all based on NLP. NLP can be particularly helpful for your health as well, okay? Because it can really be extremely helpful for keeping a balance. Because if you can work on your mind, if you can work on how you think and how you behave and how you use your language, it'll attract positive energy. The positive vibration will go through you, and then you might start to think, I feel really good today. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to go for a jog. I feel much better now. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go for a trek. So, you know, if you can get your clarity of thought, your deep structure and your surface structures aligned with your thinking and language and action and behavior, this can also have a knock-on effect. And also, the argument could be said that if you work on your physiology and your body, if you keep your body in shape, if you do exercise, that will also create positive energy internally, and also will have a really good impact on your mind as well in terms of your mental health. For me, if I get a little bit down on something, and I have to say the last couple of weeks I've been dealing with some personal challenges, which I'm quite open about. And what has helped me the last 2 weeks is when I get that little down feeling, I'll just go put my shoes on and I'll go straight out. Because then the physical walking does something to my own anxiety levels and my own mental health, that it improves it, gives me fresh, new, renewed focus, and then off I go. And then it just has a knock-on effect. So the both are interconnected, the psychology and the physiology, okay? And NLP can help. And also it can help to get that job. I mean, obviously a firm handshake would be really helpful. And also it's going to be really, really helpful for everybody to be able to, you know, look somebody in the eye, get that rapport going. You know, you never get a second. I mean, Mustafa said to me before we started the podcast, he said, Sunil, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's so true. So just try to, you know, rapport building, try to mirror the smile that they're smiling at you, smile back. If they give you a firm handshake, copy that as well. Okay. So, and then, you know, allow the interviewer to lead the conversation, but you pace it as well. You know, you pace it. You set the momentum in your answers. That will also encourage the interviewer to ask, you know, questions in a particular way that they want to interview you, not because they have to, because they're really intrigued by your answers. Okay. So that can work really well. I think, Mustafa, I'm just conscious of time. And I think it's probably best to end it here. And then in the next podcast, I'll do a more detailed analysis of the 14 presuppositions, because there are 14 presuppositions, which are the underlying beliefs of human behavior, which I think deserves a separate podcast. Okay. So I think that's probably what we'll do for now. And then we'll do a part 2 on the presuppositions next week. But I just wanted to get your opinions on what I've just mentioned here.
Yeah, the logical steps you stated are in line with NLP practice. However, we need to fill under each section with perhaps 3 problems and 3 actionable objectives.
Yeah.
And that will enable audiences to be able to adapt and apply.
Yeah.
Obviously, the subject is not just can be explained in a nutshell. It's quite expansive. The more we make the NLP theories actionable, practical, and summarize them in a way people who have no understanding of NLP would understand, then that would again be very helpful. In an ideal world, NLP to be combined with other areas like its semiotics can really help the people who want to follow your courses and your teaching. Will help them understand things, and that will lead them to success in their application.
Yeah.
I am.
Thank you very much.
I don't want to make much comment at the moment, but in the next follow-up session, we will fill all those gaps and give the audience sort of something to take away.
Thank you very much indeed. So that is good feedback in terms of offering more practical examples. But I think from this podcast, if we can leave the viewers with some very important insights on how NLP can help you with your own personal development. And we would welcome any comments from any viewers if they've got any thoughts or any suggestions on how each of those 10 suggestions can be worked on even further. So if you've got any examples from your own personal life or working or business life and you want to share, please leave your comment in the comments box below the description box. That would be extremely helpful. And again, if any of you wanted to get in touch with either myself for coaching or you wanted to get directly in contact with Mustafa, please can you note our contact details in the description box below the video, and we're more than happy to get back to you. So in the meantime, thank you so much. I think I lost your video there, Mustafa. I've got you back now. And the books are back. Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. So we're going to now wrap up this segment now, but we'll be back next week with another deep dive into how we can use NLP to improve our lives. So in the meantime, so thank you very much, Mustafa, for coming. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much, everyone.